Good morning, everyone. Today we will be covering production planning, which is an important module under the logistics function. Every organization that is involved in manufacturing would need to use that module in order to plan for their manufacturing process, determine what kind of requirements or what kind of material they need to order before they can start the production, and make sure that the products will be received on time, will be manufactured on time to, to satisfy um, the demand. So from just like this simple definition, you can see that production planning is integrated with several modules that you guys have already dealt with. One is sales and distribution, because actually sales and distribution is the one that is triggering production. You produce based on the demand coming from your customer. And also it will require material management. So you have to check inventory and see, do I have all of the raw material that I need in order to start production? It will also involve the manufacturing, and you will see that there are different types of manufacturing. I can discretely manufacture products, which means they are independent. I produce one and then I start a whole new process for another. Or they can be batch, where you produce large quantities of one product for a long period of time. So there are different types of production processes that we will go through. But as you can see, production is divided, or manufacturing requires first the planning part and then the execution part. So production is divided into, as we said, planning. And once you know how many you need to produce and what material you need to order, then you can start the execution part, the manufacturing execution, actually manufacturing the products. And as we said, we can have discrete manufacturing where the products are manufactured independently. You start one and they have a certain process that you go through in order to develop the end product. Or it can be repetitive, where during a period of time you are producing large quantities of one product. Kanban is a Japanese concept that would allow companies to respond quickly to observed demand. So there is no stocking in that process. You do not make to stock. You want to be able to forecast and or to be able to respond quickly to changes in demands or to demand in general without having to stock large quantities of inventory. So it's often perceived as a very lean production process, same like the just-in-time. So the inventory levels are actually aligned with actual consumption. And the way this is done is that there has to be a signal that goes to the supplier to tell him when to produce and when to deliver shipment to the store. Now, production in process industries is a bit different, because here you don't have parts that you assemble together, but you rather have formulas that you follow in order to produce the final product. So you have ingredients that you add. And this is very obvious, of course, in chemicals, pharmaceuticals, food and beverages, when you are processing these materials. Of course, it is batch oriented. So you manufacture or produce large quantities of one product, following not a recipe, or following a recipe, but that recipe is actually like a formula. You have to put certain ingredients in specific quantities in order to produce the final product. Okay, like other modules, we have an organizational structure that's also apparent under production. Like all other modules, we start with the client, and that's like the corporate uh, organization. And underneath the client, we may have several company codes because we have several organizational units. Each, as we said, under financials, each company code is responsible for its own financial statements, like balance sheet, income statement, and so on. Now, we also have a plant, and that plant is an area where it can be responsible for manufacturing, it can be responsible for distribution, purchasing, storage. So a plant can just like have several storage locations inside of it. But it is not, I think like the idea of a plant is always associated with manufacturing, but you have to understand that in SAP, a plant can be also just like doing distribution or selling. Um, so it's not just restricted to manufacturing. Also in SAP, you see the storage location, and you have seen that under sales and distribution and under um, material management. And again, this is a unit that stock material. And of course, we have different types of material. You have seen there are like finished goods, semi-finished goods. We have raw material. So all of these are stored. Each one of these is stored in a separate storage location. The storage locations are specialized or are differentiated based on the type of material that you store in them. We also have work center locations. Operations are carried out at a work center. A work center has, of course, a capacity. They can generate specific processes, or they can perform certain processes for a certain period of time. So examples of a work center would be machines, a production line, an assembly work center, and it sometimes can be just a group of employees. Because we use resources in work centers, we also, it involves cost. So you are in a work center, you would enter formulas, so the cost of an operation can be calculated. So, and definitely the work center will be assigned to a cost center. So the cost that is incurred, whether it's in the form of material or machine or employees, all of the cost involved for the use of these resources is accumulated and assigned to a particular cost center. As you can see from the structure, we have Global Bike, which is a global multinational organization, is the client. We have two company codes, one in the US and one in Germany. For the one in Germany, we have the Heidelberg plant, and the one in the US, that is Dallas plant. Under these, we have, under each plant, we have different storage locations, and we said they are specialized. So you have a storage location for raw material, one for semi-finished goods, finished goods, and miscellaneous are things, sometimes like trading goods are considered miscellaneous. And then we have the work centers, and this is, as we said, where production actually occurs, and operation are scheduled in the work center. And as you can see, we have a work center for assembly, we have one for packaging, we have one for inspection. Now this is, of course, is not a process production, because you don't have like formula, or you don't have any mixing of parts. You can see there is assembly. Assembly is just like putting components together, so it could be discrete or repetitive. Like all other modules, again, production planning involves a number of master data and we said master data are data that continue to reside within the system from one cycle to the other. They are not purged like transactional data. But as you can see in production, we use a number of master data, and we also create transactional data. we create a planned order, a production order, and so on. Now, again, since we're dealing with production, we have the first master data would be material, and you have actually created a material master under material management, and you will do that again in production. But you can see that when a material already exists within the system and you try to create it, the system will tell you, or the system understands that you want to extend the view of that material. We understood from material management that every material has different views. Why? Because the material is used by different departments, and each department has a certain view of the material. Sales perceive material as or has a perception of material that is very different from production. When production is looking at the material, they want to forecast how much to produce. They want to know what is the formula, or what is the recipe that I will that I will go through in order to manufacture a particular material, and so on. So we have different views of material, like sales, planning, forecasting, costing, purchasing. All of these are views of material. And we have these different views because different departments use material in a different way. We also have what we call a bill of material. And the bill of material is, it's like a list of all of the components that you need in order to produce a product, or like the assembly of a particular product. So it contains a list of all the material number that you need in order to assemble, as we said, or make a particular material. You will see later that we can have a simple bill of material, or we can have a variant bill of material where a particular component or a particular item in the list can be changed to create a variation of a material. So for a simple example would be just color. So I can create the material in color green, or color red, or color white, and these would be variations. So usually in automotive, you can have one bill of material, but with variation of a specific component or a number of components. We also have routing, like the bill of material, which is a list of the material that you need to produce a material, to produce a particular good. Routing, on the other hand, is a list of activities and the sequence of these activities that needs to be performed in order to produce a material. So of course I have to have the components, like think of it the same way like a recipe. At the beginning of a recipe, they tell you what are the ingredients that you need, and then they tell you the process. Number one, mix so and so. So the routing is exactly the same. You have a list now of operations that you need to conduct in order to produce the final product. We've talked about work centers, and this is where the actual production occur. And because different processes are involved, you would have a work center that is responsible for assembly, one that is responsible for inspection, for example, and so on. A product group consists of multiple products themselves. They can be multi-level or single level. So think of it like, for example, when you have a bedroom. A bedroom consists of a wardrobe, beds, a chest of drawers, high stand, and then you think of, for example, just the bed, and there are different types of beds, regular beds, futons, water beds, sofa beds, and so on. So here we have like a product group where a particular product actually consists of multiple products, and each product may have like several variations of it. So here is a view of a material master in SAP, and you can see general information about that material. You can also see from the tabs at the top that we have different views of this material. We have material resource planning, we have work scheduling, we have forecasting, we have costing. All of these are different views of the material. And again, several times I've just said that we need these different views because the material is used by different departments, and each department handles a specific view of that material. You can always click on the information box beside the name of a material, and you get who created that material, what type of material it is, this is a finished good, and which industry sector does it belong to. Okay, and here is a bill of material. We said any recipe for any food, you have a list of the components or the ingredients. Same thing for the bill of material. You have a list of the components that you need in order to produce the product or to assemble it. So it tells you that for this one you need a wheel assembly, you need a frame, you need a gear assembly, and then underneath each one you have the smaller components that you need. So for a wheel assembly we need a tire, a tube, a wheel, and a lock washer, and so on. Once you have determined how many quantities you need of the final product, then forecasting for the components that make up the product will be automatically done within the system. So definitely you can see that production planning is integrated with sales and distribution, and specifically the demand management component of it. Based on demand, we forecast a specific need for or specific quantities for a particular product. Based on that forecast, the system will automatically calculate how many of the components you need in order to assemble or to produce the final product. The bill of material can be single level. So this is a very simple list of components that you need in order to produce the bike, the finished bike. It's very similar to a list that you would write like a supermarket list, things that you need. So, and as you can see from the screen, these are like the components that you would need. So I would need like a seat kit, and with it I would put like the warranty documents. I need a wheel assembly and a pedal assembly, and so on. So it is very simple, and it's used for simple assembly. Like when we're doing a simple assembly, then we would go with the single level bill of material. As production becomes more complex, then you would require a multi-level bill of material, and that's where we have sub-assemblies. So a particular, like the pedal, how do I assemble the pedal? You would have to follow, or you would have smaller components that you will need to put together in order to come up with the pedal assembly. So as you can see now, if I don't get the wheel already assembled, then I will have to go with now a multi-level, where the wheel itself requires a tire, a tube, a wheel, a hex nut, a lock, and a bolt. So that would be considered a multi-level. Now SAP allow you to see two views. So even at a multi-level, you can aggregate and look at it at a single level. And if you need more details, you can go to the second or like the multiple levels that you would have in order to see how the sub-assemblies are actually produced. Okay, we said that the items, the bill of material consists of is a list of items that you need in order to produce a particular material. These items that you would see are different. They may be already in stock, and that would be a stock item. So when you see a stock item on a bill of material, you would create a reservation you are reserving that stock in order to produce the material. If it is a non-stock item, which means you do not have anything in inventory, you do not keep that item in inventory, as a result, you will have to create a purchase requisition, or if you have an agreement in place, then you will create a purchase order right away. You have variable items, and these are items that come in different sizes. So they are in stock, but like a sheet of steel, they can have different dimensions and so on. Then we have an intra item or a phantom material, and these are like items that go into the production of multiple material. So think of it like a basic cake mix. You can use that cake mix in order to create different kinds of cakes. You would add other material in order to generate the different types. So there is a basic cake mix, a basic assembly that you would use in different products. The intra item is not in stock. You would not find it in inventory. You have to assemble it together. But instead of creating multiple lines in the bill of material, you give it a name, a generic name, or a phantom, like what we call the phantom material, and that would be replaced by multiple items that you would need. Think again about the cake mix, the basic cake mix. You need like flour, you need butter, you need eggs. So every single cake that you will do, even though they are different at the end, they look different. The strawberry one is different from the coffee or the carrot one, but they all have the basic cake mix in them, the flour, the butter, and the eggs. So instead of repeating these three lines, we create that phantom material that we understand. And I'm like, instead of repeating it, the three lines over and over in all bill of materials, then we would have that phantom material, basic cake mix, to replace the three lines in there. We also have the class item. Like it says here is a placeholder. So the class item is replaced later on with a set of materials. And usually you would create a class item in order to generate variants of a particular product. So you would create like a placeholder, and that class item is later replaced with specific items in order to generate variants, as we said, differentiation or different types of material. The document item, as it says, is just a document like, for example, graphics or drawings, and the text again is just text. Now we talk about the routing, and we said the routing tell us like the steps, the sequential steps that needs to be carried out in order to produce a product. So what should I do first, second, third, and so on in order to have that final product at the end? There are like several things that you get. What are you producing? Where? What work center? When? And then the how. The how is the sequential steps. Every single step in the routing has a cost associated with it because, as we said, it uses certain resources. So these resources have a cost. And the combination of all of the costs for all of the steps represent the cost of producing the material. So if I can answer the what, where, when, and how, that means routings serve as the input for production orders, because the production order will tell me what kind of material to order or items that I need. If it tells me when, then I know the time, and I can run the schedule. If it tells me how, then I can like process production, and based on the what, where, when, and how, I can do the product costing.
So routings are very important input for the production orders, for the schedule, for the product costing, because from there you know what material do you need and how much it will cost, what kind of machines you will need in order to run the production, what other resources, human resources do we need, for how much time, what is the cost per time or per unit, and so on. And that's why routing serves as a template, as we said, for production order, run schedule, and product costing. Here is an example of a routing, and as you can see, it has a number. There is each operation has a number, and it has a specific task attached to it or a process attached to it, like attach seat to frame. It is assigned to a particular work center, so you know where it's going to be done in the assembly work center, and how much time will it require you to do that. So based on this, we know we can generate the cost, we can generate the schedule, and so on. Of course, this is just like one step in the routing for the generating the finished good, which is the bike. Now, if this is an overall view of the routing for finished bike, as you can see, you have a set of operations. It specifies which work center you will run that operation, what plant, what is the description, what is exactly the description of the process, how much time, what is the activity type, so does it involve labor, does it involve machine, and so on. We said that the work center is the location within the plant where you will conduct, where you will perform the operation. So it will, of course, involve people who are involved in that process, the machine or group of machines that you will need in order to run the process, and if you have like an assembly line, then what assembly line you will be using in order to generate the product at the end. Now, the work center also define capabilities. So yes, we've already talked about labor, machine, what would be output, but you also see like emissions. So this is really very important in industry, and especially that we specific industries where you have regulations regarding emissions. How much can a particular process, or what is the maximum amount of emission that is permissible? Government, of course, look at these, the reports generated out of these work centers, and see if the company is in compliance regarding emissions, carbon monoxide, and so on. So again, this is very important output from the work center. Thus, a production planner will be able to look at the work center documents and see if they can schedule a particular work center for an operation. They may find, for example, that it has been already scheduled for maintenance and thus will not be able to operate, to process the operation that they want to assign. So here is a list of the data that you can get from the work center, or that are assigned or captured by the work center. One is who's the person responsible for that work center, where is this work center located. In terms of scheduling, you know, when is it operating? Is it an 8 to 5, or there are 2 shifts, for example, that are assigned for that particular work center? What are in queue, like already have been scheduled and waiting for it to start? When will they move out of the work center? What duration will it take? In terms of, we said that the work center, the activities that are assigned to the work center, each activity has a cost, of course, and that cost must be assigned to a cost center. people may think that basic data and personnel data, what's the difference? The difference is there is someone responsible, but there are also people assigned to the work center to perform different activities. So the person responsible for it may not be conducting any processes. He's just responsible for maintaining or putting it on and off and so on. But there are different people who will be assigned to do different activities in the work center. Each have a position and a qualification. There is a capacity to the work center, and there are like certain formulas that they use in order to come up with a schedule. You will see when you enter like information for the work center that there are some data that's already been set as default. So you don't have like to retype operation. These are like the standard text or standard data that are used over and over. So they are set as default. The product group, we said, is a group of material that together they form a product family. I give you the example of like a bedroom. The bedroom consists of a bed and a nightstand and a dresser and things like that. And then, but under like a bed, you may have different types: a single, a queen, a king, and so on. So it's only, remember that when we were talking about like parent and child under the financials, and we said all records are posted to the child. Same thing here with the product group. The material, the bill of material is only for the lowest level. It's not for the product group. It is a combination of material together that they form the product family, but when you are doing production is defined for the lowest level of the material. I'm going to stop right here, and then we'll continue with the rest of production in another session, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with the important information. So what we talked about today is what are the things that make up or are important data, master data for production. We talked about a bill of material. We talked about, well, before the bill of material is the material itself, and then we have a bill of material. The bill of material is a list of the items. We talked about the different types of items that I may have, whether they are in stock, out of stock, variable, whether they are phantom items or phantom material. We talked about routing and how routing specify all of the steps, and thus is an input to several other documents like a production order, scheduling, product costing, and so on. And we talked about the work center and how the work center specify where the work will be conducted, and as a result it has a capacity, and based on the capacity again you can generate the cost for the material, the cost and the schedule. And the last thing was the product group that we just discussed. Thank you all for listening. I hope that this presentation makes it clear the data that you are handling in the production exercise.